Elsewhere, China is exempting additional tariffs on US goods amid tense relations between the two sides. Tariffs on around 80 more items will be waived, including medical disinfectants and rare earth metals. The new tariff waivers come as US President Donald Trump shut down possibilities of reopening talks. He has also threatened to terminate the Phase 1 trade deal if China fails to meet its purchase commitments. Under the current agreement, China is to spend at least $200 billion on additional US goods and services over 2 years. Now, for more on this, we're joined by Simon Marks in Washington, D.C. Tell us then, Simon, reports say Chinese advisors are calling for a re-evaluation of the deal, but Mr. Trump has signaled he's not interested. What's next for the two sides?
Well, I think more tension, Steve. I mean, he flatly ruled it out yesterday during a press conference at the White House, where he was initially asked about reports that there were hacking efforts by the Chinese to try and get information about American research into a coronavirus vaccine. Then he was asked whether there was any possibility that he would agree to a renegotiation of the Phase 1 trade deal, and he absolutely shut the door on it totally. And that is clearly in line with his view that China recognizes that Donald Trump essentially forced them into an agreement over which they now have regrets. That is the White House telling of the situation. The Chinese say, look, it's very difficult for both sides to live up to their specific commitments, particularly China's commitment to buy billions of dollars worth of products from the United States at a time when COVID-19 has created such economic difficulties for both countries. China, I think, by exempting these tariffs over the last few hours, is trying to send a message that it is very much trying to keep the deal absolutely alive and trying to send a conciliatory message in Washington's direction. But it's not clear that President Trump will necessarily read it in that way.
Simon, so you mentioned there are more tensions, and we also know that the Trump administration is continuing to blame China for its poor handling of this coronavirus outbreak. How will this then further complicate the trade talks?
Glenda, it complicates things dramatically. I mean, President Trump gave a radio interview about 10 days ago, inferring that one of the reasons why he believed China released COVID-19 into the international community was because it was so upset with the trade deal that he had forced them into. His intimation in that interview was that this was a deliberate release by China of the virus in a bid not just to destroy the American economy, but very specifically to undercut the trade negotiation. And if he truly believes that, then that is going to be a guiding issue for him as he advances conversations about where trade negotiations go. He's just within the last hour on Twitter returned to the China theme. Asian Americans, he has written, are very angry at what China has done to our country and the world. Chinese Americans are the most angry of all. I don't blame them. So that gives you a sense of where the president's viewpoint and temperament currently is this Tuesday morning here in Washington, D.C. That tweet published around an hour ago. And again, this just indicates more and more tensions between Washington and Beijing on trade and other issues in the weeks and months ahead.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much for that update. Simon Marks speaking to us from Washington, D.C.